Hello, my name is LoG, and welcome to part 3 of this Chromatic Improv Power-Up. If you enjoy this type of instructional material, feel free to check out my Patreon at the link below. And now, let's get on to the lesson. All right, before we learn this final fingering that will take us to the right on the fretboard, let's recap what we've done so far with the previous parts. Part 1 was the shape that I'm calling center shape that keeps you centered like this on the fretboard. We're kind of constantly moving down vertically like that. Those shapes look like this on the E string. Play a little slower. A string. D string. And then once we're done with those and we want to move away, because at that point we're kind of running out of room, we started talking about the left shape patterns, which will take us this way to the left or down horizontally on the fretboard. And there were 3 shapes on the A string, D string, G string. The A string shape looked like this. A little slower. And then the D string. And then the G string. And if you recall how we made those, is we simply took the normal center shape that we learned in part 1 and moved the starting note up an octave. And when we connect a bunch of the left shapes together, you'll notice we'll move this way. So let me try that. I'll start on the G string right here, left shape. Continue with another left shape here on the D string. And then continue with another left shape here on the A string. So notice what direction we move that whole time. We moved this way to the left or down horizontally on the fretboard. So now that we have those, let's go over the final shape that will take us this way on the fretboard to the right. I'm, of course, calling these right shape because that's the direction that we're moving. So the main kind of target that you want to shoot for when you want to get into this position is starting your starting note or playing that first note with your pointer finger, right? The pointer finger is going to set up the rest of this lick because the lick in of itself is really similar, almost exactly the same. I think it is exactly the same to part 2, the same note structure. So if you remember, we were playing 1 and then jumping down to the 3rd and then walking back up, right? So the normal shape, part 1, was starting on 1, then climbing 3, 5, flat 7, 2, 4, like that. But then part 2, we were playing 1, jumping down to the 3, and then continuing up again, 5, flat 7, 2, 4, etc. We're going to do the same thing now, but instead of starting with a note like this and reaching that way, we're going to start with our pointer finger, which means we can't really feasibly jump like that. I mean, we can, but instead of doing 1 to 3, we're going to play this 1 to 3 right there. Because of this new location, we have to reconfigure how we play the notes. But once we figure this out, you'll notice that we start to move this way on the fretboard. So it looks like this: 1, normal 3, 5, flat 7, 2, 4, like that. So let me play that one more time. So 1 down to 3. That's a kind of a little bit of a string jump. I'm doing that with like downstroke, upstroke, I think. Then for the 5, flat 7, both on the A string, doing pick, hammer on. Then I think I'm doing pick for the 2 and then middle finger for the 4, I think. Again, do whatever you want with the right hand. I actually don't really know what I'm doing with this, but figure out what's comfortable for you and just keep doing that. So again, one more time. 1, 3, 5. Once you hit the flat 7, it feels like a little major arpeggio. Flat 7, 2, 4. It's like 1, 3, 5 of G, right? Then once you're here, this part's pretty simple, a little stretchy, but pretty simple. There's our 4. Go back to the 2 with the middle finger, chromatic up to 3, just like that. 2, passing tone 3, 2, flat 3, 3, really is what it is. Then once you hit the 3 with your pinky, walk back 3, 2, 1. Just like that. Now I'm on 1, so I'm going to play the normal 7 right here. That's our passing tone to the flat 7 right there. A little bit of a stretch, but not too bad. 3, 2, 1, passing tone, flat 7, reach back here for the 5, then we trap the 4. There's our 5, there's our 4 with the ring finger. So we're going to play the note ahead of it, then behind it, and then slide into it. So 5, the note ahead of the 4, back from the 4, slide into it, and of course that's not really the 4, it's the root of the next shape. Notice what finger I'm using to play that note. That's the middle finger, which means the center shape is going to flow perfectly after this right shape. So check it out. I'll play both of those back to back. Here's the right shape starting on the pointer finger, D string. Into center shape with the middle finger. So you can kind kind of see how that starts to connect. That's a really comfortable one. So that's what it looks like on the D string. Let's take a look at what it looks like on the G string. It's going to be almost exactly the same, except for that top 4 note that we're playing. It's not going to be where it usually is because we're now playing that note on the B string. So instead of this, that's where 4 was on the D string, right? Just down a string from our starting root. But because we're on the B string, it's not going to be down a string. It's going to be down a string and up a fret. So that looks like this. 1, 3, 5, flat 7, 2, 4 right there. Not there, there. Excuse me. Once we get that note, everything else is the same, though. 2, chromatic up to 3, then 3, 2, 1, chromatic down to flat 7, 5, trap the 4. Again, middle finger. What position does that set us up for perfectly? Center shape. And then we continue however we want. So there's only 2 right shapes, whereas the others that we were playing, the center shape and the left shape, there were 3. We had a shape on the A string, we had a shape on the D string, and the G string. And with center shape, we had a shape on the E, A, and D. For right shape, with this one, we're only playing the shape on the D string and G string. If you're wondering why, it's because the hallmark of this shape is this, 1 with the pointer finger jumping down 2 strings to the 3rd, and that's always this far apart, right? From the string, not to the next string up, but the next string after that. So this is like D string, E string, so you're skipping a string. So we can't really play this shape on the A string, right? Because here's the root, the 3rd would be here on this imaginary string that I don't have. So we're not going to play it here, we're going to play it here. We're also not going to play it on the B string, even though you could. You could definitely make that jump right there. But if you remember, none of the shapes that we're playing so far end on the B string, so we don't have to really worry about that. If you're feeling adventurous and you want to come up with a shape that starts on the B string, you can come up with whatever shapes you want. You can do that. But for the purposes of this video, I wanted to keep it as simple as possible because this idea is already pretty chaotic, especially if you're not used to it. So just to keep it as simple as possible, we'll keep it like that. So again, shape on the D string looks like this. Sets us up perfectly for a center shape. And then the shape on the G string is almost exactly the same except for that 4 on top. It's right there instead of there, right? So once we're here, excuse me. Middle finger sets us up perfectly for a center shape, but it doesn't have to. We can do that right shape into a left shape, right? Check this out. Definitely do that. There's no problem there. And that's where really the experimentation and the improv element comes in, because you're going to have to pick and choose how you connect all of these however you want, right? Especially if you're getting to the extremes of the guitar. If you're down here, you can't autopilot. You have to say, what am I going to do to get out of this position? Because I'm eventually going to run out of frets if I keep doing the same shapes. So then you need to make those decisions to start moving this way. And then you're going to get to the point where you're going to be way up here and you're going to say, I can't keep going up like this. I have to change the position, change the fingering I'm using to move back this way. It's kind of the fun of this, to kind of almost get yourself trapped into a corner and then have to make these last minute decisions to move out of that corner to continue playing. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Again, memorize this shape as best as possible. This one's the trickiest one to play because it's kind of stretchy and whatnot. And also in the final video, you'll notice me play this shape, and I'm actually not using the fingering that I just showed you. I'm using a different fingering. It's really just the location of the 3rd. So instead of this, instead of playing the 3rd there, I'm doing it here. Same note. I don't really know why I'm doing it like that. That's the way I first figured it out, but you don't have to do that. I would use this one because I think it's easier, but you can experiment again however you want to play it. So practice these shapes, get them down, and when you're ready, you can come back to this point in the video and we're going to play over a backing track. This is what we're going to do for the backing track. Pretty much exactly the same as what we've done for the previous ones. We're going to play each shape. There's only 2 now, right? One on the D string, one on the G string. We're going to play them both twice in that position. So starting on the D string looks like this. Again. Then we'll do it on the G string twice, right there, just down a string. Again. Once we're done with that, we're going to do a whole string of them, which is going to give you kind of the idea of what it's going to be like to combine them in different ways. We're going to do this, a right shape, into a center shape right here, middle finger, into another right shape right here, pointer finger, into a center shape right here, middle finger, then into a left shape right here, reach down, then into a center shape. And then we finish on that A flat. So it's going to be right shape in the center, right in the center, then left in the center, and then we're done. So yeah, if you're not sure exactly what it is, watch what I'm doing, you'll catch on. It's not too bad. I'm doing this to kind of, like I said, give you an idea of what it's going to be like to string these together, because when you're playing, you're going to be stringing together in, combinations that you wouldn't expect depending on what you want. So very cool, kind of exciting to go through all this stuff, because I think this is a really great exercise. I've used it for a long time, and it's pretty chaotic, but it's pretty fun if you're able to do it and not get lost. So the main thing you always have to remember is that fingering choice that unlocks that next position. So if you want to play center shape, the first one that we went over that kind of keeps you in one centered area, the middle finger is the main note. That's always the finger that kind of unlocks that shape for you. If you want to play the left shape moving this way, middle finger works, but you have to really make sure you play that middle finger and make that choice to jump down, grab the third, and continue. With this right shape, the pointer finger is the main finger, right? If I do something like this, here's a center shape right here, first pattern that we went over right here. See what finger I'm on to start the next shape? That's middle finger. If in my head I was thinking, I want to move to the right, but I'm on my middle finger, I'm not really in the position to play that, right? Because I'd have to go something really awkward like that. I mean, it's possible, but it's way easier if I made that decision in advance and chose to start on my pointer finger instead. Watch this. Bam, pointer finger, not this, not middle finger, pointer finger, which sets me up to play that next right shape exactly how I've been practicing it. So it's really important when you're playing, you're making these decisions while your hands are running the figure. You need to say, I'm going to move to the right, and that tells your hand, okay, end on the pointer finger. Make sure that little pointer finger slide is happening, because that sets you up for the fingering to continue moving this way. Really important that you're getting those tiny little details, because that's what will unlock your ability to move all over the place. So play these really slow. The tracks, of course, are not terribly slow because they're there to kind of help you practice your technique, but practice these in your own time, very slow, making the connections very thoughtfully, and then try to take your brain out of the equation. Let your hands play the shapes and just let your brain be the overseer. Your brain says, okay, move to the right. You make the change and now you're moving to the right. Okay, stay there. Okay, you make that change, you're staying centered right there. Okay, move to the left. All right, now move to the right. And you can make these changes while your hands are playing the figures. Your brain is really the one just kind of guiding your hands whenever you want. So that's pretty much it. Again, practice these figures, come back to this part of the video, and we'll play over the track that moves from 90 to 130. All right, that does it for part 3 of this Chromatic Improv Power-Up. If you enjoy this type of instructional material, feel free to check out my Patreon at the link below, and I'll see you all in the final part.